Where'd you get the water?
I brought it to my house. Why? You haven't opened it. I was just saying, you want more water? I don't want any water. I haven't opened it. What about it? Where you gonna get some there?
Well, I don't know about that.
No.
It's bad, yeah. No. Breathe up. Good. Other than being old, shit.
Oh, it's separated.
I am a little disappointed. Did you see what happened in Florida today? No. Okay, you know, Mueller's wiring contract, Fairhouse, one that opened up 9,000.
Right.
They've had to shut down because they have so much cold.
The football team.
So, back at their flight, back to the phone Saturday. A little concerning, right?
Oh, I didn't see that. Say Florida or
Florida.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I kind of.
It was like, right after that today.
I know. She's mine too. So,
Well, I don't know.
who's your time to do
You
it?
don't know. Well, it's like.
Oh, sure.
You get kissed. Yeah, around.
Now, what is this? I do.
There's a shirt and a mug
Hell, yes. We don't hire that one.
from school.
School.
Yes, and what's all.
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir.
This is all.
Bottle of water. Thank you, sir.
So it's two actually.
You good?
That's what.
You know, we're gay, it's a good conversation. She came in.
I'm sorry.
I know, she's beautiful, you're not.
I'm glad to hear you say that. So you got a hamburger in there, what you
That's cool, that's a nice coffee. Isn't that nice? There's a coffee house up north, better than that. Oh, wow. It's a case
All right, council, you ready?
Yes, sir. We're just swapping old tails down here.
Make sure you join without audio.
Phone call.
Use audio.
Why does the mayor got all that hate?
So there we go. Okay, so you should be good.
Councilman Goodwin, you ready? Councilman Wilson, you ready?
Go for it.
Councilman Tony?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Brawley, you ready?
Yes, sir, if you can hear me.
Yes, we did. Okay, so the time is 7:08 PM. And I call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Red Oak City Council to order. Let it be known that we do have a quorum present. with all members in attendance except for Councilman Drake, who, please keep his family in your prayers. They had a death. So he is not with us, tonight. So we have Councilman Brawley online, we have in person Councilman Goodwin, Councilman Tony, Councilman Wilson, and please let it be known that all notices have been posted in accordance to the Texas Government Code, Section 551. Councilman Brawley, would you please lead us?
Yes, please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us as individuals and as a community. As we have assembled together here this evening, it is with very heavy hearts at the recent passing of our friend and colleague, Dana Argumentis. We pray that you will be with all of her family and friends during this time of grief. Give them comfort in knowing that Dana is with you in your heavenly kingdom and that she is absent any worldly pain, suffering, or sadness. Lord, please bless all of those participating in this meeting and to our family members and friends and neighbors. Father, we would ask that you would watch over and safeguard the city staff, our public servants, and our first responders as they go about their duties in service to our community. Finally, Lord, we ask that you provide us with your guidance and your wisdom as we conduct the business of the city of Red Oak. Help us in our deliberations that we might represent all members of the community fairly and make decisions that promote the common good. In all these things we pray, amen. Stand for the pledge.
Please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman. And I will echo the sentiment that Councilman Brawley shared during the prayer. You know, our city is grieving because of the loss of our city secretary, and we just pray for their families, the staff, and we thank for all the other staff that stepped up to help her during this time, and we do know that her service is this weekend, and we know she's not hurting anymore, and maybe that's the one joy that we can share, is that she's smiling and being a secretary for God. Anyway, so thank you. So I struggle with these virtual meetings, doing these proclamations, these presentations, and each one deserves their own strength and recognition, because each one is very special, and I don't ever do justice to what they actually mean, but I'll do my best. The first one is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm going to kind of cut to the chase. You know, this is a scary situation for everybody who's been diagnosed with it, everybody who's had a loved one who's had breast cancer, or the thoughts for their family that have gone through this. And I just ask that we continue to keep people who have had breast cancer, or even those who we don't quite know or are still waiting on some diagnoses, that those are in our prayers. And I proclaim that October 2020 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in our city, and proclaim specifically October 30th to be Pink Out Day. And I encourage all Red Oak community residents to wear pink in an effort to raise awareness for this event. And we know that our firefighters and our police force tend to have some type of, shirt, that kind of comes out, and that's a great reminder, and, I still wear mine outside of that date, just because I think it's an important thing. So, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which affects both men and women, so nobody sees any boundaries there. And also, October is Fire Prevention Month, and this is also the time when we're going to be exchanging our batteries with the time change at the end of the month, to help keep people safe. And so it's with great honor that I proclaim that October 4th through the 10th, and we're going to extend it for that whole month, the whole month of October, as Fire Prevention Week, and Fire Prevention Month throughout the city. And I urge all people of the city of Red Oak to be aware of their surroundings and look for available ways in the event of a fire or other emergency. Respond when the smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and to support many public safety activities and the efforts of our fire and emergency services during this month. And then lastly, this is a proclamation for Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd through the 31st. And it has to do with alcohol and drug prevention topics. So people need to make the right choices and choose appropriately. And so we just ask that people have drug-free lifestyle, no illicit drugs, or no illegal drugs, and do their best to, if you're having an issue, find some counseling and get some help so we can cut down on some of those devastating events that happen in the lives of families. And so, as mayor of the city of Red Oak, on behalf of the city council and citizens of Red Oak, I hereby proclaim October 23rd through the 31st as Red Ribbon Week, and encourage its citizens to participate in drug prevention education activities, not only during the Red Ribbon Week, but all year long, to make a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free Red Oak. So, thank you all for your allowing me to make those proclamations. And I assume we'll move on to citizens, and we don't have any comments, or was there anything that was submitted?
We did have one, Mayor,
Okay.
and that was from Cole Davis. I believe Cole is on here, but he wanted to make a request for a special zoning permit. And Mr. Davis, I'm not sure if you're talking about an issue that's actually on the agenda tonight, or if you're wanting to do something yourself. If that's the case, if you're wanting to get a permit yourself, we would need to deal with you with staff and get you on an agenda to be able to do that. So if that's the case, we'll reach out and contact you tomorrow. I know we have your phone number, so we can call you about that. Was it something about an issue that's on tonight, or was it just something that you're wanting to do? And you are muted.
Mr. Davis, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry about that. I was actually told to get in on the meeting to discuss my request, but I'm happy to handle it however you would like me to. It doesn't have anything to do with the meeting tonight. I don't assume.
Okay.
I talked to the zoning manager of Red Oak for probably about an hour to try to discuss what I needed to do to request a special zoning license.
So, I believe, city manager, the issue is that the code would allow, however we have it, the tattoo cosmetic, permanent cosmetic, only in C2 and industrial. And Mr. Davis was wanting to know if the city had any interest in considering other zoning districts to allow you to get a SUP.
Okay,
For
so
that.
we're not talking about the actual zoning change itself, we're talking about a change to the zoning ordinance.
Yes,
sir.
Okay.
So I had just wanted to, my mom has owned a business in Red Oak for 38 years, and I've been a citizen like 5th generation. I got a long lineage of small business owners in Red Oak that I come from, and I just was looking to help my mother because of the coronavirus that's kind of devastated our businesses. I've been tattooing for like 13 years, and I've developed a big clientele, and I would like the permission to tattoo them out of the back of her studio, but I don't have any interest in opening up a tattoo studio in Red Oak. It would be a strictly private type of thing. It wouldn't, no signage, or I don't want anyone to even know I'm there.
It wasn't clear, his mother has a hair salon here.
Yeah, so Mr. Davis, it sounds like, we'll work through staff, to try to get, and I can assume that'd be P and Z, that would be.
P and Z would have to discuss it, and council would have to discuss it, but we would really need someone either from P and Z or council to make this kind of request, because we're making a request to the entire zoning ordinance as opposed to the zoning for a particular property. So we would need some direction from P and Z to say this is something that we do want to consider, so bring it forward, and then we have the publications, notices, public hearings, and so forth.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you saying, we're not deciding that it can be done or not, just to say, and this would be a vote thing that we would have to do, but we can't talk about it tonight.
That's right.
Okay, so somehow we need to be able to get this on, can it come from either council or P and Z first? Okay, so Mr. Davis, I'm gonna have you work with staff to get it on one of the agendas, either P and Z or our city council, such that then we can discuss it as a vote to then direct the staff to work up,
Go through the public.
go through the publications and stuff. It's a convoluted way, but, so we have to get it on an agenda such that then we can direct staff to get it posted in the newspaper and what you actually are wanting to do, such that then it can change the zoning, allowable uses, I guess.
Okay,
Who does
so
Mr. Davis contact? Who does Mr. Davis have to contact to cut the case?
Well, he doesn't really need to contact anybody, because he's already said what he wants to do, what we need council to say, we want to consider.
But we can't vote on that tonight.
Right.
So somehow we gotta get it on an agenda.
Right.
Then I guess I make that determination, so staff, if you would put it on our November agenda to be done.
Okay.
So there, Mr. Davis, we got it handled, so it'll be on the November, I'm sorry.
Assuming we have publication notice.
Well,
Yeah.
Mayor and council, what has to happen is this is a text change amendment to allow this ancillary use in the zoning district that he's requested. So we would have to bring an actual text change amendment to allow as an ancillary use, that use in a district. So it would require a text change amendment. If that text change amendment was approved, and then we could approve that administratively if we allowed it as an ancillary use, which is what he's actually requesting. So if the council wants us to do that, Mr. Gwenzel would then bring that text change amendment. It would go to P and Z, then P and Z would make that recommendation to council for that text change amendment, and then you would vote on it. If it's approved, then Mr. Davis could make the application. So if you want us to do that, we will begin that process through P&Z and then to council. It'll probably be at the December meeting. I don't know what the time is, but someone will have to write the amendment and determine what the text change would be. Then we'd have to post a notice for P&Z and council to consider. So it's just the timing of how all that falls with our meeting dates. It could be as early as November, as late as December. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. So, Mr. Davis, that was our lawyer, kind of explaining it, and those are the steps, but we think that we have an understanding of how it needs to go, but it is going to be delayed. It's probably not going to make it back up to approval until the December timeframe because of what has to go through.
December timeframe,
That is
possibly
correct.
November.
Maybe November, more probably December,
Yeah, earliest will be November,
latest December.
yeah, latest December. Okay.
All right. I appreciate you gentlemen very much. I would like to add that it's very, very important for me for you people to understand that I have no intentions of opening a tattoo shop in Red Oak. I know very well the people in Red Oak and the outlook of the business. I'm strictly looking to handle my personal clientele, and that is all. So it would be, like I said, no signage. It's snippers, and it would just be me in the back with no signage whatsoever.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other? Great. Okay, so now, thank you, Mr. Davis. Now we'll move into what we call the consent agenda. The consent agendas are items that are considered routine in nature and can be acted upon in one motion. They can also have items removed for separate discussion, and I'll ask any councilman or city manager, or myself, are there any items that need to be removed to be acted upon separately? Councilman Brawley.
I see none.
Okay. Councilman Wilson. Councilman Goodwin. Councilman Tony.
Just one clarification, Mayor, on the emergency orders. Did make the change to coincide with the governor's order, that it would be individual 10 years or over as opposed to 3, the way we had it on the local court. We wouldn't be able to enforce it any. Everything else is the same other than sending it out.
And the governor's orders expires. Did he have a date on his?
I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah,
So ours,
Mayor and city manager, there was also an additional gubernatorial order that was issued late last week, and we added that also. So you're fully up to date as reflected by Mr. Fuller's comments.
okay. And so ours expires on our next council meeting. Be extended to that. Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Councilman Wilson.
Second.
Councilman Goodwin. Those in favor of approval of the consent agenda?
Tony, aye. Goodwin, aye.
Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
Great. That's 4-0. Thank you, Councilman. The regular scheduled session consists of items 8 through 14. Item 8, consider adoption of resolution number 20-056R, accepting a donation of real property for lots 5X and 6X Oakmont Park subdivision to the city of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas, from Country View of Red Oak LLC, a donation deed which is attached hereto as Exhibit A authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. Mr. Kelly.
Good evening, council, and mayor, and city officials. I would also like to add to this, this is the Oakmont Park. This is, the two sections we're talking about are, you've been out there, you'll see the 5X, which is the soccer complex with the parking lot and the overflow parking. There's a restroom being built there right now. There's a walking trail, and of course the soccer fields. And the 6X is the triangle corner on the to the west of the waterway that cuts through the center of the property there, and that's going to have the splash pad and the picnic pavilion with the playground. So that'll all be together there on that corner, and essentially this will accept the property from the Country View of Red Oak and become our newest park property for the city of Red Oak. Although it's not complete at this time, the park is being used by the sports leagues, and it's essentially in a condition in which we can accept it right now at this state. And the continuum of the rest of the property, we should see the restroom and the remainder of the sidewalks be finished between now and the end of November. So the restroom could be extended a little bit just because of the weather. If we see some cooler weather or whatever, they will not do masonry work or anything if the temperature drops below 50 degrees. So during the winter, we could see that extend a little bit, but there will be, I'm confident they'll get that finished.
Good, thank you.
I'd point out that Mr. Hargrove, the developer, Casey Hargrove, who developed this and has done a fabulous job in working with us and the IDC to do so, is not on tonight because ironically he is at soccer practice. But he did tell me that they are starting on the restroom facilities this week. And obviously we appreciate everything Mr. Hargrove has done.
I might add, I've been looking around parks quite a bit in the last few weeks. Mr. Kelly's doing also an excellent job. Those soccer fields are fabulous, and the football field is really coming in and doing its thing. And if you want to find him, he's out there on the job. So I think you made a good hire there, Todd.
Thank you. I appreciate those kind words, and I'd like to thank my staff as well for their hard work, because without those guys' help, none of this would happen.
Great, thank you, sir. Okay, entertain them, well, so I guess these are motions. And, we just entertain a motion to accept, adopt resolution number, 20-056R.
So moved.
Councilman Goodwin,
Second.
Councilman Wilson. Those in favor of adopting this resolution?
Tony, aye. Goodwin, aye. Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
Great, that's 4-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Also, number 9, consider adoption of a resolution number 20-057R, approving the denomination of a park located at Oakmont Park subdivision in the city of Red Oak, Texas, to be known as Hargrove Park, and more particularly described in Exhibit A, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein, and providing an effective date. Mr. Kelly.
Good evening again. Well, as we just heard, the Hargrove family would be donating this, and Casey has done a great job putting this park together. And now that the park will be donated and has been accepted by the city, we would like to appropriately name the park Hargrove Park. The Parks Board at a special meeting that we had 2 weeks ago, they voted unanimously to recommend the naming of the park to Hargrove Park.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right. Entertain that motion. to adopt resolution number 20-057R.
So moved.
Councilman Wilson,
Second.
Councilman Tony. Those in favor?
Councilman Tony, aye. Goodwin, aye. Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
4-0, how exciting. Item 10, conduct a public hearing and consider approval of ordinance number 20-037, amending Land Development District PD 67 for a 7-Eleven convenience store with gas pumps east of Hickory Creek Drive, being 2.6 acres on Lot 2R of Hickory Creek Estates, Phase 1, at 135 East Ovilla Road, Red Oak, Texas, City of Red Oak, Texas, case number Z20011, requested by Kevin Matz.
So this is the southeast corner of Ovilla Road and Hickory Creek Drive. These are the two lots that the EDC purchased and put together to be able to move that drive, Hickory Creek Drive, over to line up of the burning lane on the north side. We have had this property under contract for a while now to build a 7-Eleven. We already had the zoning, but we do need to amend that for the specific uses and for the development plan, which we have here tonight. So the P&Z met last week, approved unanimously, but they were missing a little bit of information. And I spoke with the developer today, and probably I'm the only one in the room that has been around consistently long enough to remember this. But when we started doing the work for these lots initially and bought them and put the road in, part of the requirement that we required ourselves was to ensure that there is a masonry screening wall on the back side of those lots from the residential subdivision. So I guess it came up in P&Z last week that on the, if you can go to the site plan.
Yes.
Okay, good. So they're not using the entire lot depth for the 7-Eleven. They do have a remainder down here. In P&Z, as well as the developer had discussed, well, we don't know what we're going to put on this lot back here. If we go put in a masonry screening wall, we may end up tearing it down if we decide to put in residential lots on the back side of the property. So they had discussed and made the recommendation, among other things, this is just the one outstanding item, to do an 8-foot wood fence right here, and then to determine later whether this is going to be residential, then they would come back and put a brick wall up here. Or if it was going to be commercial, they would have to put a brick wall down here. What they didn't know is that the EDC, when they sold the property, had some deed restrictions that does not allow residential use on the lot. So they wouldn't be able to come back and put residential down on this bottom piece, which means that whatever goes there is going to have to be commercial, office, retail, restaurant, so forth, which would require the brick wall along the street edge. So my recommendation, and I talked to the developer today, let him know my recommendation, is that we require the masonry wall on the southern boundary now. Otherwise, we're going to have houses fronting onto that street, looking into the back of 7-Eleven or looking into a wood fence. Since we know it's going to be commercial at some point anyway, I think it just is best all the way around to go ahead and do it now. And I know there's other issues too, Brian, and Ben, if you all want to go through those. I think the use itself is great. I I think they're doing a good job architecturally, I like the site plan, I like everything else about it, that's just the one thing that it is standout.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so just a quick summary, and City Manager pointed out the issue there about the defensive screening wall. So at P&Z, when we did discuss it, really the only sticking point was what to do about the screening, because the neighbors there were concerned about noise, things of that nature. So that's why the wood fence is proposed to block that noise. And of course, we had the issue of what would trigger a masonry wall. Of course, Mr. Fuller shed light on the deed restriction, the practicality. The zoning may have allowed something, but the deed restriction is going to undercut that to trump it. So, with that said, here are the architectural elevations. That they're giving. They're meeting the PD standards. They are providing different types of vertical and horizontal relief and different materials. They do kind of have their standards, as one of their standards, but we've worked with them on asking for a little more glazing on the front, and we did get that. They've been responsive. This document shows the site plan, but also shows that we worked with them to make sure that when TxDOT comes through and does their taking, that we don't end up with a lot that looks like it just got took. So they worked with us on designing the site based on what happens after the taking. So that way, this will look like a normal, complete development after taking. On the landscaping, they're meeting all those standards. We're getting a nice mix of some live oaks for your semi-evergreen, but also some, pistache, so you get some fall color trees, so you've got a mix there for us throughout the year. That was thoughtful of them. There's an outdoor seating area here. I don't know if you can see my cursor hovering, but it's a small little board table area. Some of their 7-Elevens do have that. Seems to be just a handy place for somebody to run and sit in their car. They can sit there and get a quick bite. Then we have also talked with fire. They met the fire's request about the radiuses to make sure that their truck will be able to safely get through and around that canopy. The dumpster is pushed down here. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. Dumpster is pushed down here into the back and kind of hidden a bit by the development, some of the landscaping that would be on the frontage. So, I think they've made the effort to adequately, not only will they do the masonry around the dumpster, but they've also tried to ensure that it is one of the least prominent aspects of the site. And again, as the city manager said, they're only using this one part of the property they're buying, and staff understands the city manager's point about masonry wall. So, the P&Z motion was really just to approve what was submitted, and with that notation about the 8-foot wood fence, that it sounds like the city manager's made a strong case there about why that wouldn't necessarily be a good idea, knowing what we know about deed restrictions, purchase agreements. So, I think in a nutshell, really, that's all I need to say about it. If y'all have questions, happy to answer.
So this nice building, we kind of worked with them over on 342 and 377 and come up with this building a few years ago. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Same one here.
Excellent. All right, so this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at 7:43. Was there anyone that cares to speak for or against this approval of this ordinance?
My name's Kevin Matson. Can I speak for a second?
Please, sir, go ahead.
Sure. Well, everyone, thank you for your time tonight. My name's Kevin Matson. I'm with Red Sky Holdings. We're currently working on this slightly above a 2.5-acre property here on the corner of Hickory Creek in Avila. And we're planning on developing a 7-Eleven here on about roughly over an acre of the 2.5 acres, and is kind of left with an odd L shape around it. And I did talk to Todd earlier today, and just kind of want to clear up kind of the concerns of the masonry wall, why we showed a wooden fence, and really it came to, we weren't quite sure and are not quite sure what's going to happen around the property, whether that's retail, restaurant, medical office, but it will have a use for it. But for right now, we're looking at the 1 acre there on the corner. And kind of why we showed a wooden fence in the back, I think in P&Z, was we were looking at those evergreens back there on how they've kind of grown up. And we're not against putting up a masonry wall. I don't want anyone to think that we're not going to put it up. But I think we were deferring to working with the new grades on the parcel behind us on what we propose to do and make sure it flows, and make sure if we put up an expensive wall, it's in the right place with the right footers, the right elevation. And so in lieu of that, we upgrade our landscaping behind the building to show more trees to try to screen that in the meantime, as well as provide an 8-foot wooden fence. So I think in the P&Z meeting, that's what we were trying to show. And with talking with Todd, I know that there's a big requirement of putting the masonry wall, and we're not against it, but we just want to make sure it's done right. But without knowing what's being put back there, we did have some concerns on trying to put up that very nice and expensive wall to kind of see what develops around it. And I do have Lorraine Tucker and Cody Woodruff on this call, who's my civil engineer, as well as my due diligence coordinator, and working on this project. And they may speak up and just say some, their 2 cents. But if anyone has any questions regarding this project, I'm sure between the 3 of us, we can, satisfy any concerns or answer any questions that you may have. But I appreciate the consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Madsen. Anyone else that cares to speak?
Move the public hearing closed.
Hearing nobody wanting to speak, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Councilman Goodwin?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Councilman Tony? Those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Tony, aye. Goodwin, aye. Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
So that's 4-0, closing it at 7:46. So, can we pull up that's your roof? Are those trees already there? All those little big circles, or is that?
Yeah, the ones down here are.
Yeah.
These are not.
So which side would it go on?
Let me show it there. It'd go on the north side of those trees there.
So that would be the buffer for the people, they're seeing trees and not the
trees and then the wall
behind it. Yeah. Is there a sidewalk there?
Yes. And this was when we were going through this project initially, this was a very key issue with that subdivision with an HOA, that we ensure that we get this done. And understand what Kevin's talking about, I really have to stress that we need to get it in. I'd rather work out with him how we do that, as opposed to whether we do that or when we do it. I can see where color of brick might be something that, well, if it's a red brick building, you don't necessarily want an orange brick fence. I understand that if we could get, some neutral tones in the wall itself, I think would be better off. I think we need to work with EDC to help put that in sooner rather than later. I think it'd be worth it.
I think any development that does come in there, staff is going to be recommending them to match the architectural style and material that was used on 7-Eleven so that it looks like a cohesive development. So if they use complementary colors that are on the 7-Eleven today to do the screening wall, then it would all look good together once it's all developed. So I think it could be done now if they can kind of commit in their minds that, hey, we're gonna do a cohesive development that looks like it was meant to go together, not just one offing each parcel.
Yeah, so, and how many houses face that, do you recall?
I think it's 5.
5 houses. Okay. And we didn't have any public information from those?
We had,
From the
two called in at P&Z, and they were concerned with the, seeing the back of the 7-Eleven sound and people walking over there, so they wanted some kind of, physical barrier that was more than the shrubs that were already there. The shrubs they're pretty substantial.
So,
But they wanted, and that's how we kind of came to the conclusion, without some of the deconstruction stuff, to some kind of just wood fence that was almost like a temporary fence.
So is there a requirement to have that up before they start the construction for the
I think I would recommend that, I would recommend that it all be done simultaneously.
Yeah, it is their condition of CO.
Right.
Well, if I lived there, I'd want it put up so I don't have to watch them do the construction. I mean, so, if they already know what colors they're gonna be using on the building, have them put that up, because I sure wouldn't want to be watching that right there, but.
That's just atypical from a inspection type procedure, because what we're gonna do is, inspect certain items, and they would be pouring the foundation of piers at the same time they pour the foundations of the building, and then they do all the brickwork, the mason that comes out does all the brickwork at the same time, and then it's not accepted, or in this case, given a CO until those items are all complete, because they would be all encompassed on the permit.
Council, any questions? Councilman Brawley?
No questions. I just agree with what Todd was saying, that wall definitely needs to be a masonry wall and not a wooden fence.
That's good.
Okay. Entertain a motion so is there something that's different based on how it came from P&Z?
Yeah, so the motion would be, approve as shown in the document and as written in the document, with the addition of a masonry wall along the southern border of development.
Okay, so.
6 foot masonry wall along the southern border of development.
Okay.
That's approval.
I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah, so originally it was 8-foot fence, but now we're going down to 6 foot?
Yeah,
That's typical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, this is Robert Hager. What I would recommend is approve it as presented, plus the addition of a masonry wall along the south boundary of Lot 2R of Block A, because that's the entire block, and then the south boundary would be the correct call on that, since that whole lot, that whole development is Lot 2R. So,
2R?
yeah.
Bob, is that
Block A.
you're gonna have to replat the lot in order to get a permit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So entertain that motion.
Thank
So
you.
moved, Council. Okay, thank you, Bob. Councilman, Wilson, second.
Raleigh, second.
Councilman Brawley. Those in favor?
Tony, aye. Goodman, aye. Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
That's 4-0. Thank you, Councilman. Item 11, conduct a public hearing and consider approval of ordinance number 20-038, amending Plan Development District PD 98, known as the Oaks, being approximately 211 acres, generally located south of Stevenson Road and west of I-35 in the city of Red Oak, Texas. Case Z20017, requested by Mr. Curran.
Yeah, I'll start out with it and I'll let Brian and Ben take it from there, but generally speaking, what we're looking at is subdivision down here around the old church. We had zoned, 3 years ago. What we, have seen now is a request from a builder who wants to come in and take 62-foot wide lots. But he has to have options for front-facing, front-entry garages. What we have looked at is some trade-offs to be able to do that. And Brian can bring those up on the screen and kind of show you and go through them. But we would require those with the front-facing garages to be, about 10% increase in square footage minimum?
Yes.
For those homes. We also have a few of the architectural standards that have been added. And I'll let Brian go through those because he wrote them all down in P&Z the last meeting just an hour ago. P&Z did recommend approval unanimously, and staff supports this as well. The homes that they are planning to build in those are very nice looking homes. The front entry garages, for those areas that have the front entry garages, would be only for wood or wood-clad garage doors, as opposed to metal or photoac or anything else. So we went through pretty detailed in the last meeting, and Brian, if you want to further explain that.
Thank you. So with the city manager saying the developer's looking for some other options for where the market is at with what buyers are looking for. And so, let's back up to the table here. A little bigger, easier. So in areas B and C is what we're really focused on here when it comes to upping the square footage a little bit as a trade-off for allowing more front entry. The basic idea being there that having that square footage is adding value that might be that fair trade on allowing the additional front entry. They are committing those to still, of course, providing J-swing and building at least one home as a J-swing. So people are aware that that's an option. That this is what they're asking for on this part. So that would be your areas B and C, which are your 62 front, 74 foot front wide lots. Then sort of another what do you consider trade-offs? They were asking to add some tier 1 elements. So I forgot an important part. All right. Going back to area B and C. The other point is that where it says wood or wood-looking carriage style, on areas B and C would be wood or wood-clad only. So that means what is on there will have to be of real, actual wood. And so not just wood look, but actual wood, and we're not getting into the vernacular carriage style. Just want a wood or wood-clad door, presumably, you can have still glass in it, but we want actual wood. We don't want a stamped metal door with a wood grain pattern. We don't want fiberglass.
When you say wood, that can entail a lot of different things like particle board, MDF type things like that. Is that included in that? Or
No,
are you
these would
talking
need
about
to be like
timber?
cedar or redwood.
Well, I know, but I'm in the industry, and I know that's one particular thing you can get around. It says wood. Yeah, it comes from wood. So I don't know if there's
I
more
have lengthy
specifics.
arguments with those people, and they would
Okay, I just wanna make sure, that we're covered.
I think we can be more specific, and we'll talk to the developer and the home builder here in a little bit when we. I think they are intending to build, cedar wood doors.
Okay.
And what we're looking for. And we can specify that, and I don't think that's a big deal. But I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to
There may be
create a
some
problem, I
buildings out
just
there
wanted to
that
cover.
will do that.
I think so. You would think I'm trying to create a problem.
No, but I appreciate you pointing that. Okay, so I just wanted to know, because that's related to the trade-off there. And then you have, for these architectural elements, you've got a tier 1 element list and a tier 2 element list. Tier 1 is worth more than the tier 2, and the idea is they pick a certain number, and if they check those boxes, then that's what would get a plan for that house to be built. So to be more responsive to where the market is, they've asked to add things like coach lights from the brick floor on the front porch, and bay window, 2.5-car garage, etc. Cutting to the chase, we flogged this horse pretty good, I think, at P&Z. Some of y'all may have heard some of it. I'll apologize, but I'll have to read to you what basically changed. So what we're, on these architectural element lists on tier 1, we're adding the idea of the 8-foot front door with glass inserts as a tier 1 element. That's to be considered a little different wording there than your decorative metal glass front door. The idea here is we're emphasizing we want the glass inserts in the front door, and still 8 foot. And that's a tier 1 element. Then rather than saying coach lights, we're saying that would be a decorative wall-mounted light, and that would be in tier 2. The brick floor on front porch remains tier 1 as proposed. For the bay window, we've clarified that that would be an offset bay window, multi-sided on its own on the foundation, and that would be a tier 1 element. Also, a 2.5 or larger car garage is a tier 1 element. The buff-colored mortar would be a tier 2 element, and stone landscaping in the front yard would also be a 2-tier element option. Did I miss any?
Stone borders around the landscape area.
Right.
As opposed to the metal. I think you get all of them. If you want to kind of go through and show some of the houses that they're actually talking about building real quick, that'll give them a better idea of what we're talking about.
Good.
So we had shown this image for quite some time at P&Z. Again, it's showing a wood door. This also gives you a sense of, I'll try to zoom in to make it a little easier to see. Definitely this front door would meet the idea of a decorative glass insert, but we also discussed, lighting over here, that this front door also would meet the idea of being a decorative glass insert. The door is a little more contemporary looking. It's a 5 or 6 panel light door. So, either of those doors could work. Obviously, we're looking for a vernacular of architecture that looks cohesive. You don't want the schizoid looking architecture that you sometimes get when you do these lists. But of course, with Bloomfield, they're showing us some good images of their work. They've got a reputation that I think will be good for our market here. They're certainly higher quality builder there. So, trying to think what else.
And that's part of why we're looking at these trade-offs, because we don't want to back ourselves into a corner to say we're just going to open up to front-facing, front entry garages everywhere in Redwood. We don't want to make that statement. We do want to make sure that if you're going to do them, you're going to have to do them with quality. You're going to have higher expectations to be able to do that. We're not changing our standard in that regard. We're just looking for the quality. I'm going to flip through some more of them, so you kind of see some of the, he's marked out what some of the bad garage doors look like.
Yeah. Go
This is also what it's hard to see in this image, this darker color.
Yeah, that's fine. I like it. Barn door,
And I believe most of these homes have a lot of the elements, the bump color mortar, they've got the stone edge on the landscaping, they've got the decorative wall lighting on the outside, the doors. The only thing we didn't have was a example of the bay window.
And again, and I think this is an important, element as to why we're looking at front entry, is because it just saves you yard. I mean, where you have the J entries, particularly on the smaller lots, and big houses, you have so much concrete out front, you don't have any front yard, or you have to scoop the house all the way to the back of the lot, and you end up shorting your backyard. That's why they're making these requests, is just, that's what the market is saying, is we want front yards, we want backyards, but we still want that quality of the home. So, I guess, P&Z has approved it unanimously with those, conditions, and staff recommends approval as well.
Okay. So this is a, public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at 8:05 p.m. Is there any discussion, for this?
And, Tom, you're muted.
Yeah, this is Randall Currington, 6750 Hillcrest Plaza Drive, Dallas, Texas, Suite 318, 75230. I'm the landowner. Also on the call is Don Dykstra with Bloomfield Homes. You may see him in the box there, and Fred Phillips, who's going to be the developer. I've obviously known a lot of y'all a long time, been a developer down there and landowner, Red Oak for a long time, and happy to have these guys working on our project, taking it forward from us. I know Don would be happy to answer any of the questions on the technical aspects of some of the architecture. I think we've tried to capture it and create, really hopefully be one of the nicest neighborhoods, in Red Oak when done. Master plan with all the things that are going on there with the parks and amenity center and the New Oaks Boulevard running through the middle of it, the expansion of that, and it'll open up the whole southern sector for future development. I'll answer any questions, or I'll ask Don to answer if there's some technical questions on architecture, and he's the president of Bloomfield Homes. Thank you.
So before we go off of this, I will ask, I don't know if y'all can see that picture. Y'all probably can't see any of the pictures, or can you, Mr. Don?
Yeah, they can.
Okay, so that, above the garage, to the right on that top left photo, move over to the right just a little bit. The dormer windows, those windows up there on the second story. What is that material around those windows?
I think in this city, this is a house in DeSoto, and their ordinance requires stucco, so it's stucco in that case. The architect has actually drawn them with a shingle look, which, again, I usually defer to the architects on what looks the best. And we would prefer to build with the shingle look, but if the requirement is that it's got to have the masonry content and we got to do the stucco, then that's what we do with it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other one that want to speak on this open public hearing?
Yes, this is John Larmouth here in Red Oak. How many properties are coming in this new development? How many homes?
The original zoning request, and it was around 700. I think we've got it platted for about 650. Give or take. It's on 211 acres. I think we ended up with just, and I don't have the ordinance in front of me. There was a maximum number, and it was about 3 acres 3.4 units per acre was the maximum. And I think the final plat ended up about 3.25. So units per acre. There's a 22-acre park and another 8-acre park. There's a site for a fire station site, plus some individual small parks within the neighborhood.
So let me point out also that that is all already approved. Everything's already done. All we are talking about is increasing the size of the homes a little bit, talking about the garages and some of those architectural elements. That's all that is open for discussion on this PD, because everything else has already been completed.
I'm sorry, the gentleman who asked that question, would you state your name and your address?
Yes, my name is John Larmouth, and I'm here in Hickory Creek, 106 Post Oak Drive, Red Oak.
Great, thank you. Anyone else that wants to speak on this public hearing? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
Councilman Wilson,
Second.
Councilman Tony. Those in favor of closing?
Tony, aye. Goodwin, aye.
Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
That's 4-0. Okay, so the reason why I asked that question, Mr. Dykstra, was I guess I was thinking that all that front facade had to be masonry. I don't want to make it,
Stucco is masonry.
okay. So when Mr. Ginsel, when you were showing the front doors, that dormer or that second floor that was on that other one, those are just representatives of the doors, but that very first picture that you pulled up, is that masonry?
So we're not changing anything from what was originally.
Okay.
What Todd was saying, no changes to any other part of the document other than garage doors and the architectural elements. So original. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and some of it can, like, doghouse type dormers. Now, if you're talking about gables, you can get brick or masonry up there, but when you're talking about dormers that are like protruding out of the roof,
Right.
You really can't get masonry on those.
You can do the hardy board,
You can do hardy boards, you could do, you might be able to do stucco.
but it's not
Hardy boards.
masonite.
Right,
It's not masonry.
right.
Council, any other questions that you have about? So I guess what we're looking at is increased square footage, the changes on those tier A or, tier 1 and tier 2, and reduction of the mandatory J-swing to help accommodate that. That's the trade-off. Okay. Council, anything? All right. Entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 20-038.
So moved.
With those additions that we're talking about, on the tier 1 and tier 2.
Yeah, I'd say if we covered it all in the P&Z motion, approved to recommend that.
Okay. Council Goodwin, you still, okay, Councilman Goodwin. Second. Councilman Wilson. Those in favor of approving that ordinance with those, that were noted based on the P&Z?
Tony, aye. Goodwin, aye.
Wilson, aye.
Okay. Councilman Brawl, I didn't hear your vote.
Aye.
Great. That's 4-0. Thank you. Item 12, consider adopting a resolution number 20-058R, approving a development agreement between the city of Red Oak and, say it for me.
Amalgamated Properties, LLC.
So to allow for the creation of a public improvement district, a PID, for the Oaks residential subdivision development being approximately 211 acres, generally located south of Stevenson Road and west of I-35, City of Red Oak, Texas. Mr. Hartman.
Mr. Mayor, we have not received some iterative changes from the developers. Request that council table item, finalized document.
Somebody take action.
Mayor, I was watching, in relationship to a kid, I was watching Channel 11 the other night, and that's when they're around Frisco. The people bought homes and went to close, instead of paying $4,000 closing costs, they paid $14,000 to $18,000. So, I mean, when this comes up, I'd like to know how the devil that could happen, and I want to make sure it doesn't happen in Red Oak, Texas.
Okay.
Councilmember Goodwin, we can assure you that that's not the intent. And I'll let the people that understand PIDs better explain it, but that is not the intent. But when we appreciate your concern, we would have the same concern that you would. Thank you.
And again, all we're going to table is the reasoning behind the PID, in particular for this project, is there is a significant amount of off-site infrastructure going in, some on Stevenson Road, some on the Oaks Boulevard, and being able to make some connections through there. And as much as anything, is the timing on the thing, because you're not going to be able to have all of the funding in place to get all that in with a phase one. So the PID allows them to financing they need and be able to get that infrastructure in during the phase one, opposed to, off.
Okay. Well, I'd like to also know how it happened that you could have a closing cost jump from $4,000 to $14,000.
Yeah, I'd have to look and see what that was.
All right.
Because
That's
really
scary.
the PID is basically a tank.
Yeah, I know, I'm researching.
Yep. So I'd have to look and see what that story was.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to table.
You don't need to, then.
You can just take no action, bring it back.
Skip it, what, tell me what,
Just skip it fine, and we'll put it on the next agenda.
all right. Item 13, consider adoption of resolution number 20-059R of the City of Red Oak, Texas, approving the purchase of two trucks and one dump truck for the Public Works Department, and authorizing the city manager to execute necessary documents for such vehicle in an amount not to exceed $136,839.80, as provided in the formal quote, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit A, Exhibit B, providing an effective date. Tim? Mr. Williams?
Yep, Mayor, Council, these two crew cab trucks and dump truck were previously discussed in our strategic planning. And they're essentially part of our replacement, vehicle replacement. It goes with, just for, that was again, a previously identified equipment. We went through the competitive quotes. Ultimately, these vehicles will be purchased through buy board through the Caldwell Country Chevrolet, and we provided the best price. It's not, it's actually going to come in under budget, but we'll, as far as just the trucks themselves, but that will allow us to, put the necessary lights, things like that on them. So.
This is in budget, isn't it?
It's already budgeted, yes, it just requires to make that.
We have significant time on this type of item, so want to try to order early.
Good time to buy, get good prices.
You you wait till the last day of the year, then we can actually write it off a little bit better, but we won't do that, I'm just teasing. Okay, consider adoption of resolution number 20-059R. Entertain that motion to approve that.
So, you pretty cute, you, so careful.
I don't know what that mumbling was, but.
So moved.
All right, Councilman, Tony, and then approved, second by Councilman Wilson. Those in favor of that?
Tony, aye.
Goodwin, aye. Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
Excellent, that's 4-0. Get your Tonka toys going.
Thank you, Mayor
Consider
Council.
all- You bet.
Mayor, if you want, on the last item, I think we would be best served to come out of executive session to take action, or taking action on number 14. So if you wanted to move ahead to 15 with the board appointments and the reports.
All right, sounds good. So we're gonna, delay item 14 till after, closed session. So item 15 is appointments and reappointments to the boards and commissions, and, to consider approval regarding the board and commissions. For the Red Oak Library Advisory Board, a reappointment of Lauren Crane, Juan Gutierrez, and Karen Stanfield as regular members for a 2-year term from October 20 to October 22. A resignation of Jacqueline Lozada as an alternate member. And the second one would be a P&Z Commission appointment of a 2-year term of Kim Campbell as an alternate member for the remainder of the 2-year term from June 2020 to June 22.
I'm not sure about that Stanfield card.
Hey, you hear that, Karen? So call in and grab it. All right. Entertain those motions to approve those.
So moved.
Okay, Councilman Goodwin.
Second.
Councilman Tony. Those in favor?
Tony, aye. Goodwin, aye.
Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
Sorry, Logan, I didn't let you talk on these people, but.
No,
I
no,
guess they went ahead.
no worries, no worries. You did great. Thank you.
You bet. All right, departmental reports. Chief Blanton.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Council, thank you for doing the Fire Prevention Week. We'd just like to, again, encourage our residents and anybody that you know, if they need smoke detectors installed, if they need batteries replaced, so please reach out to us at redoakfirerescue.com, and we'll be more than happy to come out and install those smoke detectors or batteries to ensure that, you know, every home in Red Oak has working smoke detectors. And we also recommend and encourage every homeowner to have at least one fire extinguisher in their house at all times. So we appreciate that. I just wanted to update y'all on the crews in California that we have out there that have been out there since September the 11th. They'll be headed home tomorrow from California at 4 a.m. They plan to arrive back in Red Oak sometime Friday afternoon. Currently, that wildfire out there is it's over 1 million acres. They have it 76% contained. Our crews have been able to help establishing control lines all the way around the fire, and CAL FIRE at this time is just going to let it continue to burn and burn itself out. So our crews have been instrumental. I've had lots of positive comments from CAL FIRE of how our crews, how well they worked out there with crews from across the United States. So thank you for allowing them that opportunity. They've gained valuable experience and knowledge that they can bring back here to our crew members as well. An update on COVID. Currently in Ellis County, we're sitting at 4,735 cases with 39 deaths and 134 active cases. We are starting to see an uptick in hospitalizations. I know 13 states currently are reporting a greater than a 10% positivity rate. In Ellis County, we're at 9.62, so we're right there at that 10% mark. Currently in Texas, there are 4,053 COVID patients in hospitals. within just trauma service area E, which is where we are located. We have 1,200 patients in hospitals. So that's 30% of the entire state. The patients in the state that are in the hospital because of COVID, 30% of them reside in that trauma service area E that we reside in. So, that's a big number. In Ellis County, we have a total of 18 ICU beds. Currently, there's 15 of those occupied. Of that 15 that are occupied, 6 of those are COVID patients, and 5 of those patients are on ventilators. Again, we're seeing an uptick, and I know earlier a colleague had sent me that Pickett County Health Director is recommending that those schools return to all virtual learning. So, as we move into those winter cooler months, there's those increases. And I know some of those states that are up north in those cooler states is where some of those upticks are coming from. So I know I keep beating this horse for the last 10 months, I guess. But I just, caution everyone to continue to wear your mask, use your social distancing. I know we're tired of it, but we can't express it enough. I know I get beat up all the time of why don't I talk about masks all the time? Because it's the single most, effective thing that we can do to try to eliminate this. So I just continue to urge everyone to take the necessary precautions. I don't have anything further unless Council or Mayor, you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Yes, and I think I heard you right. So they're coming in on Friday, people from firefighters from California?
Yes, sir. They'll be back here in Red Oak on Friday afternoon.
Right. I'll buy them a beer.
I'm sure they're ready.
Just one. Thanks, Sharon. That's my favorite. Don't bring their own straw. Okay. All right, Chief Wolf.
Mayor, Council, I just wanted to highlight 2 things. We have a test scheduled for the 24th. We have the highest number of applicants we've ever had in the police department with 101 so far. We'll be splitting those up into 2 sessions of 30 each, maintaining social distancing and masks will be required. That'll also include the physical fitness exam. And then for the month of September, we were able to complete 304 hours of in-service training on 11 different topics within the department, both in-person and distance learning. So we're still being able to maintain some of our standards and increase our knowledge base, even under the circumstances of COVID. That's one of the highlights that we were able to complete a pretty significant amount of training in a month for our staff.
Mayor, I'd also like to add, express our appreciation to Chief Wolf, the police department, and those officers. With Dana's condition, they had a detail at her home for the last several days, and I know the family was very appreciative of that. So, Chief, that was a great idea, and we thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And yeah, that's exciting to have that big of a class coming in. We haven't seen that type of numbers in a while, so that's great. I think the word's getting out that this is the place to be. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Rich Hartman.
I just wanted to highlight, I said last month that I've come to you with our fiscal year end permit numbers, and they're huge. And what I'm talking about is the new residential permit. So we had 291 new homes last year, fiscal year. I'll give you a year end, actual 2020 number in January, but that comes in at over $700,000 in permit fees collected, but more importantly, over $85 million in taxable value added to the ground. That's, of course, our permitting software number, not the actual, what could be the market number, so could likely be higher. But that's really great for the city that helps spur us in our new ventures for parks and things like that. I gotta give all the credit to the staff for being able to get those permits in and out the door and make all the inspections. on time, because that's a lot of permits. That's almost, a permit every other day, being processed and inspected, so that's exciting for the city to see all the new homes.
Is that 700K, how much was that, was Compass here in the area been?
I'm sorry, what?
How much was that 700 permit, say K, 700,000 permit dollars worth from Compass?
That was
No, I'm just talking about
Residential, huh?
residential.
Wow.
Yeah, residential.
Yeah, that's exciting.
For their little towns growing up.
They'll probably ask you to leave it.
That's true. He's one of my fans.
Human resources.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have anything additional to add to my monthly report, but am available for any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you. Council? No? Ms. Black?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I would just like to highlight a few items. The Finance Department, of course, is completing year-end reconciliations at this time. So we'll continue to post both revenue and expense items for a little over a month. These would include items for expenses that were received and invoiced by September 30th, and then some revenues, of course, for example, sales tax, some franchise tax payments, and a portion of utility billing. We did receive our sales tax this month, so these were the collections for August. These were increased from the prior year, the same period, by 5.3%. So overall, our year-to-date collections are up 10% from fiscal year 2020 budgeted revenue. Also, we did receive, since our last council meeting, our certified values from Ellis County Appraisal District on September 23rd. So the overall decrease to the levy on those certified values was approximately $42,000. So there's a projected decrease to the adopted budget and M&O collections of $32,585 and INS of $9,209. But again, we're still very confident in the adopted budget. We did budget very conservatively in other areas of revenue, such as sales tax, and we also expect savings in some other expense line item. So that's all I have to add, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Benford?
We finished up the year, finishing our evergreen budget, replaced a couple of PCs in the CID over the police department. Got one more to finish over there. Had several new employees in the city, and we started on our remote secure access server. We've got a little bit of ways on it, and we've got some training to do and finish configuration on it. Otherwise, I don't have anything else to add. Lots of virtual meetings every month. It'll be normal for a while.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Ragsdale?
Yes, first of all, I just wanted to thank you for the continued support of the library and our library board members, reappointing our 3 of our members. The end of the year statistics for 2020 will always have an asterisk next to it, saying that, of course, obviously we were closed for 6 months out of the last part of the year. So hopefully when we reopen, and then obviously when we reopen in the new building, we will outdo all of our statistics in big numbers. I don't have anything else to add unless the city council has questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kelly?
Just to give everybody an update on the construction out at the Live Oak Sports Complex. Last week we saw all the light poles go up, and so they are in place. If you drive back there, you'll see it is a new look. It is LED lighting. It's a downlit situation. That way we don't have light spillage, and the neighbors won't be upset that it's flooding them out at night with not being able to go to sleep. So it's a high-tech look, really neat. They've made a lot of progress. They've got the liners down, and tomorrow they'll begin pouring concrete on the outskirts of the fields to get the borders for the fields poured. That way they can advance, particularly while they have good weather. Advancing back up towards the front, we saw football play their first games in Red Oak this last week on the new field. The sod, which we talked about at the last meeting, took pretty well. We experienced some very hot days, and we had to dry it out a little bit before they played on it, so it did turn a little bit brown, but we watered it quite extensively the last couple of days, and it's greening back up. So we're gaining that green back in the ground and the grass, so it looks normal. I'd also like to let everybody know that we'll be having a ribbon cutting ceremony on Saturday the 24th, and we will send the details out to everybody. So we'd like to make sure everybody knows that date is a ribbon cutting date, and we'd love to have everybody there. You guys have really made this happen for us, and it's for me and my team, it's been like a pleasure to be able to do this, because we heard so many comments on Saturday during those football games that, hey, this is really nice. This is what we expected, and so it was really reassuring that, hey, we're doing some things the right way. And so that's the way we want to.
Downhill or uphill.
Yes.
It's now level.
A lot of people never realized how unlevel that field was, and the fact that it had about a 5.5-degree slope going downhill. So depending upon which from north to south, you were going downhill. So now it is level. And also wanted to see if anybody had any questions about anything else going on in parks right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Williams.
Mayor, Council, I have nothing to add to my report. I would like to highlight that this Saturday, the 17th, we will be having the trash off or cleanup day. It's going to be held at the Oaks Church, so between 7:30 and 10:30. So if you have excessive items you need to get rid of, that'd be the time to bring it. So.
At the Oaks Church. And that
Yes,
went
sir.
out on the water, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
That went out on the water bills, so they could know when that is?
I don't know that it went on the water bill. It's on the city website, and this week we'll do another social media post for it again. So.
If the signs aren't used, the reader signs, put that out. That'd be a good thing.
Okay.
All right. So I think we will go into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. 551.087, 551.072, and you're taking us to a breakout session, is that correct? Yes, sir. All right, so we have all councilmen, Mr. Parker.
Yes, I said, James Parker, Bob, Lee, council.
Okay.
And Clark is here with us.
Okay.
And everybody else, if you want to just hang on, when we come back out, so Mr. Salonis is on, and maybe Gloria, as we come out of the executive session, going right back in.
Okay. So hang tight, he's gonna move us.
You want to go say this? Right.
Okay. Tell me everything comes in.
I'll let you know.
Lori, a stupid question. Did he say we needed, that I needed to stay or just you? I couldn't hear all that.
I didn't hear all of it either, but I think we're just doing the one item regarding the debt issue. So unless you need to stay on for that, I don't know.
Okay,
You
good.
can always-
Well, I just couldn't hear all that, so I don't think I need to be on for that. That's all you. Thank you, ma'am. Have a good evening.
Hey, you can do it.
Cool.
Back to the drum.
Okay.
Yes, I have. Well, from the dark side.
Okay, the time is,
9:03.
9:01 PM, and we will go back into open session. And we will revisit item 14, which is consider and take action on an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Red Oak, Texas, combination tax and revenue certificate of obligation, Series 2020, authorizing the mayor or city manager to execute all necessary documents and ordaining other matters relating to the subject.
Okay, so, as you know, this is the bond issuance that we've been talking about for several months now. To put the infrastructure in, north of Old Mill Road, extending, Austin Boulevard, the water, and so forth, going in to affect that industrial area. We are now at a point, after the bond validation lawsuit is finalized, that we can move forward and issue the debt. We have bond counsel, Clark, here with us. We also have Jim on the phone from Hilltop Securities. They're working on getting the presentation up. But what I can tell you is that the numbers did come in very favorable for us. I believe we had in our original bond pricing, I think we had worked it out at about 3.2% interest. And they actually came back at 2.1% interest. We did get good rates once again. And I will open the floor to Jim to go through the financial portion of it, and then Clark, if you need to guide us any after that. Jim, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me, Todd?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, citizens of Red Oak. My name is Jim Sabonis. I'm the managing director at Hilltop Securities. I lead a team, and we at Hilltop are the city's financial advisor. Tonight, you have before you an ordinance to approve $2,020,000 of the combination tax and revenue certificates obligation. The debt has a 20-year amortization. Todd, Gloria worked with us to present to the rating agency. The city's rating of AA- was confirmed, very positive write-up with a clear direction how expectation of the city will be higher rated in the future. The net results of the sale today is that the project fund will deposit $2 million. The true interest cost was a 1.82%. Taking all cost of issuance, it is an all-in interest cost of 2.11%. Total principal and interest is $2,440,000. Annual payment of $122,000 that will be self-supported by utility system revenues. Based on the current cash flow of the system and the debt service existing, the addition of this debt service will have no impact on utility rates. On page 2 of the presentation, we did a comparison to the plan of finance that was presented this spring. The original plan of finance indicated $2,085,000 of debt issued. It was reduced to $2,020,000 as actual cost of issuance far lower than estimated. The project fund remained constant at $2 million because of the lower amount of bonds issued and the lower interest rate. The interest cost was reduced by $297,000, or on average about $14,800 per year. As Todd indicated, the original plan of finance indicated an interest rate estimated of 3.26%. The delay in timing which corresponded with a decline in overall interest rates, and the city's positive rating resulted in a very low 2.11%. As you can see, far exceeded the benchmarks we discussed when the council directed execution of this transaction. On page 3 of the presentation, we have a worksheet that indicates the audited revenues for the last fiscal year, existing and this proposed debt issue, combining to indicate the total debt service and showing what the cash flow available from the system is, covering the outstanding debt obligations. And finally, on page 4, we have the scheduled events. Tonight, as the council considers and if approves this document, the documents will be executed. Your bond counsel will submit them to the Attorney General, who reviews and approves all transactions, and the closing is projected for October 29th. In summary, as financial advisor, we recommend approval. This exceeds all benchmarks and goals that we had. I want to congratulate everyone on Todd and his entire senior management team. It's a very successful sale, well received in the market. With that, concludes my formal presentation. I'll answer any questions, provide any additional information I can to the council.
Thank you, sir. You want to add anything?
No, just to reiterate, this approved this evening, we'll get signatures, everything signed up tonight, and I'll go back to the office and get that sent up to the AG so we can submit it, and we'll put all the deadlines at the same time for the state closing date. Unless there's any questions.
Council?
No question.
No questions. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 20-055R, amending the resolution. Oops, wrong one, sorry. Consider action to adopt resolution authorizing the issuance of the City of Red Oak, Texas, combination tax and revenue certificate of obligation, Series 2020. Ordinance. Yes, take actions on ordinance authorizing the issuance of City of Red Oak, Texas, combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation 2020.
So moved.
Councilman Goodwin.
Second.
Councilman Tony. Those in favor?
Tony, aye.
Goodwin, aye. Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
Excellent. 4-0.
Jim, as always, great job. Thank you for getting us good rates and help us walk through these issues. Clark, again, thank you as well. Okay.
All right.
Thank you for allowing us.
Excellent. Entertain them. Is there anything else that we need to cover? Okay. All right. So we didn't have anything in executive session, so entertain that motion to adjourn.
Let's go home.
Councilman Wilson.
Second, Brawley.
Second. Councilman Brawley. Those in favor? Tony, aye.
Goodwin, aye. Wilson, aye.
Raleigh, aye.